learning to accept myself, the good things and the not so good things, and being aware of the times when I feel external pressure to be someone else.
When you practice self-love, it's intrinsic, and the effect of that is outwards. I think it becomes selfish if it's all about you na.
To you guys, what does self-love mean to you?
For me, I used to have like a definition of what self-love is, but now I'm sort of like, I paraphrase the definition. But basically for me, it's learning to accept myself, the good things and the not so good things, and being aware of the times when I feel external pressure to be someone else. So I think self-love for me is just being able to understand, like, it starts with self-awareness and being able to understand that there's good parts of me and there's the not so good parts, and being able to embrace that wholeness, both sides.
Self-care for me is learning how to say no. Because I'm a people pleaser kasi. I don't know, you guys, but me kasi, if there's anything I believe in, is parang yung horoscope signs. Sorry. Pero
okay lang.
Because I'm a Libra So
okay.
as much as possible, I want things balanced. Literal.
Yes.
I want both sides happy. Sometimes, at my expense. So, there was a time that I couldn't say no. Na parang for me, if I say no, wala na. I won't be accepted. I'll be talked about. I'll be a failure to others. It's all about others. Sometimes, or most of the time, I forget about what will make you happy, Gia. Parang, is it doing what they want you to do or ikaw? It was a hard process for me. I tweeted something nice, but self-care is really about, it's a discipline. For me, you have to commit to self-care forever. Because as a doctor, I can't take care of my patients if I myself, I'm not well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sa akin naman, my definition of self-love is actually, I don't know if it's the opposite, it's actually also self-work. Personally, it's actually taking care of how you grow as a person. So, I don't know if it's related to my strengths. It's really like, how do you take care of yourself in the fullest of growing as a person, your relationships with others, and then at the same time, your fullest potential. So that's my definition of self-love.
What was your turning point in terms of realizing that self-love should be a practice?
Sa akin, I'm sharing this. Not everyone in my team knows this, but my husband knows this. In 2013, I actually started seeing a psychologist because there's one point in my life, I was doing BDJ, it was successful, I have a flourishing business. I was in a relationship, not with my husband, but in and out. And for the first time in my life, I actually had a thought of committing suicide. And that shocked me because as early as high school, it was something I couldn't fathom. Meaning, I know, I hear people considering it, diba? Parang there's a time na in high school, parang nagiging uso siya to slash. It never resonated with me because I felt that I've been the type of person, a super strong personality. I know what I want. I don't care what other people think, ganyan. But during that time, I felt so much pressure with the business. I felt like I was alone. Na parang even if I have a team, parang I just felt alone.
Yeah.
So parang sabi ko, parang I felt so much pressure and so much weight. And I said like, if I don't know if I would have died kasi it's just the 7th floor. So I go, parang, pag nag-jump ako, parang wala na akong iisipin. Wala na akong problema. And then, I recognized that thought was alien to me. To myself, oh my God, parang maybe this is how it starts. And maybe it's time that I take this seriously and talk to someone to help me process all of these things. And what's going on inside me that parang I'm entertaining these thoughts that I normally don't have anyway. So that was my turning point.
Thanks for sharing.
For me, I mean, I could totally relate, Doc. I mean, I've always had, I mean, to a certain degree, I still do, have a very huge need to be liked by people.
Yeah.
I think, I remember in college, I wanted everyone to like me. I'm pretty sure high school and grade school, but especially in college, I was very aware of it. But there were some people who didn't like me for whatever reason, and I felt so devastated that someone would not like me, and I would, try my best to make them like me and appease them. And I didn't realize, like, I just look back now, and I realized that I had a lot of those things. Plus, another thing that before I went to my turning point was whenever I would feel an emotion, like let's say anger or frustration or guilt or just me not liking myself, I never felt it was okay to be able to express my anger and my pain. I always had to look okay, look happy. It's something that I know we'll talk about it, but it's something that I formed growing up as well. But my turning point came, it was actually just really recent. I would say in just the last decade maybe. I started with a line, and it was, I love and approve of myself. In the beginning, I would just just words that I said. But when I really got to understand that, hey, even before asking for people's approval, can I like, and some people might be struggling with, loving yourself. But I say, but maybe you can start with liking yourself, or being okay with yourself. When I learned that, that's when I think parang nagano siya, like it snowballed in a very positive way, where I just started learning, like, hey, not a lot of people may not like you, but do you like yourself enough? And it's okay. And it's okay.
So it's super important, guys, na you really have to forgive yourself because we all make mistakes. And more than anything, 100% people won't like you. 100%. There will be a 50% chance that people will really hate you.
Sure.
But I think to Bam's point and also si Dar, keeping up a brave front, that's so difficult. In fact, that's a whole new topic. That's a whole new topic. Kasi there's such thing as high functioning depression too.
Yes, correct.
That can be. But it's nice that nagkaroon na ng parang stop point.
Let's talk about our belief systems.
Yes.
What belief systems parang do we encounter, or do you most in your work, or the people that you guys talk to, what belief systems do people have when it comes to self-love?
Well, in my experience, one predominant, we'll call it a limiting belief. I only say limiting because I believe it causes people to hurt themselves and hurt other people. Is the belief that I'm not good enough. So I think it's a universal belief where, and I relate this in the programs that we do, where when you're growing up, between the ages of 0 to 7 years old, there's a lot of programming that you get. It's what you see, it's what you hear, it's what you experience. But not just that, but the meaning that you assign, to that experience. But especially the meaning for you. Like example, if you were compared to, let's say, a brother or a sister, that's one of the things that could lead. Like, how come your sister has higher grades than you? How come your brother's more athletic? Why are you always reading a book? And then you start, coming up with meaning, the way the brain works. Where maybe the meaning for me, just so everything makes sense, is that maybe I'm just not good enough. That's one that I've encountered in the programs in my work.
We have a question that is connected to belief that self-love is selfishness. Well, for me naman, it's not. Because in fact, when you practice self-love, it's intrinsic. And the effect of that is outwards. I think it becomes selfish if it's all about you na. So it's really striking a balance between, giving yourself, granting yourself what makes you happy. For me, self-love is not really selfish. That's really a predominant belief.
Saka naman to add for that feeling of you're not worthy.
Yes.
And then the feeling of selfishness, that self-love equals selfishness. Grabe, sobrang strong, really strong belief. Then another thing that I also encountered, even personally, is something sometimes medyo related siya sa not good enough, is the I'm not worthy. Sometimes, if you encounter it, are you worthy of being supported? Are you worthy of being helped? Na parang that feeling na parang, dapat ba tinutulungan ako? Or dapat ako lang mag-isa?
O kaya, there's this certain extent na parang you're guilty of being happy.
Yes.
Kasi parang, bakit ako?
Exactly.
So, it really exists. Some people are guilty of being happy. Yung parang happy ako ngayon, but parang I have no right to be happy.
Correct.
Where in fact, we all deserve to be happy at the end of the day.
Like, how do I know where's the line between self-love and being narcissistic?
Yes.
And I watched this video just this week. Sabi na parang, there's no such thing as self-esteem. It's really made up. Esteem means valuing something or someone highly. So if you say self, like I'm valuing me like highly. And the example there was they were on a date, tinanong ng girl. So what do you value in your life? I value me, you know. And it was sort of like mocking self-esteem.
Yeah.
But then I said I think it was very simplistic how some people would define it. You know, it's all about me. It's about I'm first, and it's losing the essence of caring for others. But I think it's been wrongly defined. For me, a simple guidance system for me is I know I'm stepping into self-love. And actually, I have a term for it. It's not selfish; it's self-full.
Yes.
When I'm experiencing being filled with love, I know I'm on the right path. If there's such a thing, because I not only uplift myself, I uplift other people.
I don't know if it's culture, pero love kasi sa atin, the definition sometimes becomes sacrifice.
Yeah.
They don't love someone if you don't sacrifice
Something.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a limiting belief.
I mean, if I could say something about that, I mean, that's so drilled into, I think, the culture. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying just to be aware of that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's really true, no? I think, kasi there's this expression na kung mahal mo ako, gagawin mo to.
Correct.
Diba? There's always parang dapat may kapalit. Which for me
Correct.
naman, if you love someone, just let things be.
Yes.
You can be there to guide, I think, but I think it shouldn't like overrule naman individuality because you don't sacrifice yourself naman totally, and it's not selfish. It doesn't mean that you don't love the other person.
No, I just have to say, like, there's a lot of people watching. You know, they're in a relationship where they're really suffering.
Correct.
I mean, they're really hurting, and they're just taking it. They'll maybe justify why the partner is hurting them, or they rationalize their situation. But I would say a lot of people are not really facing the truth of, like,
Yes.
you know, you are unhappy, you're actually abused, you're actually hurting, and you've got to face up to that. You know, otherwise, it's not going to help you. Just validate. Again, it goes back to the belief system.
Yeah.
I have a belief that I'm not worthy or not good enough, and I have to show that in my relationship just to prove that my belief is correct. But I think a lot of people are suffering needlessly today because they're not taking a different action.
And here's the tip, no? I think in life, like personally, I practice this. In my life, I have non-negotiables.
Mhm.
So when they touch on that ano na yun, that's all for me. So number one is my family. Number one is my individuality. So I talked about this on the last episode of G Talks about when to call it quits because abuse is very common now.
Yes.
And I'm taking off from Bam also because abuse is not always physical rin.
Yes.
Sometimes, most of the time, it's verbal.
Sure.
And lahat victim. And for me, gender is not an issue here.
Agree.
Anyone can be a victim. Pero, nangyayari kasi is, ganyan lang siya. Di ba? You find excuses for a practice. Di ba?
Kasi sabi magbabago naman siya after.
Magbabago naman siya after.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You give them a chance. Pero may limit yan eh.
Yes.
If it's already drilling down on you as a person, I think ano na yun, parang red flag na yun sa life.
Correct. We have parents or our moms, the persona of a mom na the mom has to be self-sacrificing, sacrifice everything, sacrifice the career, sacrifice. Yun yung persona natin sa
stereotype
mga.
siya.
Oo, may stereotype na gano'n. Sinasabi ko rin, I have 2 girls, so they're young. That's not something I want them to grow up in, to believe na just because I became a mom, I have to sacrifice everything, the career that I worked for. It's not something that I want to pass on.
I would agree because I also have 2 daughters. And me naman, my way of teaching them self-love is to fight for themselves. I don't fight their battles, except when talagang bad trip. But I always tell them that you have to choose your battles, and they start young. My kids have been taught that way, and may tendency pa rin kasi maging nurturing ang mom. Self-love is also all about choosing your battles. Hindi lahat ng gera, or hindi lahat ng tao patulan.
Agree.
Because that's so toxic.
Okay. My question, how do I get rid of these negative or toxic thoughts that we have, like our limiting beliefs?
What I do is I acknowledge them that it's there. Accept how you feel, acknowledge it, and then I think take it one day at a time. And then And it's really a fact that healing takes time. You don't give a deadline. If you're not ready to heal, then grieve.
Yeah.
Learn to grieve, but at the same time, realize someday na this too shall pass.
Yeah. For me, it's self-awareness, acknowledging it that, I don't feel okay. But I think the most empowering experience I've had is, I always say this already, taking people out of the picture. Because madaling sabihin, I'm upset with what you did.
Yeah.
I'm angry, umayos ka lang, I'll be okay. Exactly. So, being able to acknowledge, and I think it's still connected with self-love, is being able to know that I'm responsible for how I choose to react or respond to the situation. It's something you do over and over again. And that's why, the most important thing I think is if you slip up, to be able to have enough compassion on yourself to forgive yourself.
That's true.
And start again.
Because life is dynamic, diba?
It is.
Every day you wake up, then you sleep. It's a cycle. But you're changing. No change is too small for you to grow. Little things that matters.
Yes, agreed.
Why do people hold back from doing self-love, right?
Well, I think we're so craving approval and acceptance from people.
Exactly.
It becomes priority, and we just really put everything else on the road, including ourselves.
Parang you think about, ay, pag nag-no ako, hindi na ako accepted.
Yeah.
I have this favorite saying by Paulo Coelho. No? Self-love is really saying no to the usual things you say yes. No may seem to be really strong, but it's an art. The art of saying no.
How do I communicate to everyone how I want to be treated?
For me, sa actions kasi ako eh. If you're my friend, I'll tell you the truth. But if you're not, I'll show it sa actions ko. If I'm not comfortable, I'll just graciously say no.
The term I use, red flags.
Yes.
So the moment that you're already feeling uneasy about something, I think it's important to call it.
Yeah.
And not pretend that it's not
Okay.
there. If you keep tolerating even the small things, then they'll just get bigger and bigger. And you're not really letting people know that there are certain things that are important for you.
Ako kasi believer talaga ako of this one. It's making requests. That's one thing that you can communicate, like your boundaries, or communicate how you want to be treated.
What's the difference between a request and a demand? You'll know you're making a demand when it's not how nicely you say it, but it's how you treat the person if they don't give in to your request.
Yes. How do we get into the practice of self-affirmation?
You just have to, again, I think it all starts with forgiving yourself first. Because we're all guilty of something, and sometimes that baggage accumulates, then we carry it.
Yes.
So I think forgiving yourself for being just you, that's the first step. And then you start to affirm yourself. Wala naman mali if you start telling yourself that I can, and I'll make it through this day. Kahit this day lang. Or I'll make it through this morning. Start small. It doesn't really have to be grand.
When you're repeating something over and over again, I think what a lot of people are missing is you're not just repeating words that you're saying, but walang power. So there's got to be emotion. And the more that you say it, like I like myself, I like myself. And the more, even when I say that, I've practiced doing that. It's working when you feel that lightness. You don't feel that fear of, what if they don't like me, if Doc doesn't like me. But I still like myself, even if I make mistakes, which you will. Because I think also understanding, Dar, that you're not perfect, you'll never be.
See, one thing I remembered someone sharing with me before, but we have the 5 love languages. So we have words of affirmation, you have service, you have gifts, you have touch, quality time. So one application that person shared with me, what she was saying, what people sometimes forget, that part of that is, that's also a key to how you can love yourself. Let's say, if you're an affirmation person, then give yourself that affirmation. Sometimes maybe it's a possibility that hearing people force like a certain way na dapat ito yung gumana sa akin.
Yeah.
But that's part of the self-awareness nga,
Correct.
that you figure out what works for you, what makes you feel good about yourself.
Sabi nga, there's no D that's too small. And for me, all feelings are valid.
Yes.
And we all have different coping mechanisms as well. So I think we have to stop the practice of comparing yourself to others and do what you want. You're you. So I like that. Apply the love language to yourself.
Just as a matter of fact, one great indicator of being able to love yourself is understanding that everything you think you need that lies in another person, you can give to yourself.
Yes.
I think that's the most
True.
liberating thing for people to come to. I don't need another person
To complete
to
me.
complete me, you know. Like you, I'm gonna examples more like you can do it, and it feels great. You know, it feels great.
Other than, I guess, affirmations, or is there something, I don't know,
Ano ka ba?
na parang
I'd love to
to make you feel like, okay, I'm really forgiving myself.
Well, I have a practice before that I shared. I actually have a journal. I call that my failure journal. Everything on that journal, you're all failures. You're all, it's all black. It's ugly. It's really ugly. But on the opposite end kasi, I jot down what I have learned from this.
To accept that it's there, and to not resist it. I think a lot of people, when they're trying to push against it, that's when you get into devices, into you try to distract yourself,
Yeah.
and it leads you to hurting yourself and more people. So for me, being able to accept it and not judge myself for not being okay, that's a big thing. It's okay not to feel okay.
Yes.
It's not your main goal in life is not to always be. I have to always be happy. It's so
Yeah.
unrealistic, but it is to go through those processes where sometimes you're down and to learn from it, to get the meaning from that scenario, and to be able to, I think for me, anyway, uplift other people.